He writes these Christians, he says, I wanted to write to you about our common salvation. I wanted to write to you and just rejoice with you and be glad with you and talk about the gospel. That's what I wanted to do. But instead, I feel compelled to write to you about something totally different. Something that doesn't bring us joy, doesn't bring us a smile on our face, but instead causes us heartache. Right? That's one of the habits I'm trying to break. He said, I feel compelled to write to you about this. And this is what he wants to write to them about. He said, I want to appeal to you to contend for the faith that was once for all delivered to the saints. He's talking about the gospel there, isn't he? He said, I want you to contend for the gospel. Now, what does it mean to contend? To fight for it. To fight for it. To stand up for it. Well, where are they having to contend for it at? In their own midst. In their own churches. You know, we've seen this necessity to contend for the faith once for all delivered to the saints in our own midst in Southern Baptist life, haven't we? Where many other denominations had drifted from the faith because they first drifted from the authority of God's Word. Did you catch that? How do we drift from the faith? Well, we don't just start off by giving up the deity of Christ or giving up the atonement or giving up the resurrection. The drift always begins with a questioning of the authority of God's Word. Now, why is it that unbelievers first question the authority of God's Word? Because they don't want anybody to have authority over their life. I try not to use the word all and every, but most of the ones that I have read and of the ones that I've had in contact with. Those that say they don't believe in God, do you know what the usual reason for? No matter, they may say, well, it doesn't make sense, or I live by reason, or I live by logic. But when I talk to them and I listen closely to what they're saying, it really boils down to this. They don't believe in God because they don't want somebody telling them how to live. Whenever you read a story about a Christian, especially if they had been a Christian leader, I think it's true across the board, that has renounced their faith, you just wait. In 2 or 3 months, it'll come out. They've left their wife. They've come out as a homosexual. And so what was the real reason for their leaving their faith? It was a moral reason, wasn't it? Okay. So when we begin to undermine God's Word with doubt, it leads down a bad path. So I want you to contend for the faith. And so we want to contend for the faith. In our Baptist life, we were headed down that road. We were headed that way. And by God's mercy, as Baptists, now this is not to say that we don't still have lots of issues and problems. Certainly we do. We're not a perfect group by any means. By God's mercy of the major denominations, the only one to start down that road of liberalism, of rejecting the authority of God's Word, and be pulled back from that was the Southern Baptist Convention. And it was a bloody battle. It was a bloody battle that really raged for 50 years in our denomination. Let us contend for the faith, first by standing for the authority of God's Word in all things.
This is an excerpt from the full sermon, Can a Church Implode?